I truly believe this is just the beginning. What we're seeing now, what we have seen with Ebola, the flu, dengue, coronavirus, now there is a brand new mystery killer virus coming out of Africa. I kid you not. It's not being widely reported. It's not being talked about in the mainstream media, but they have ruled out it is not the coronavirus. It is not Ebola. It is not Lassa fever. It's not dengue. They don't know what it is, but it's killing people. And they have kept this hush hush. Now, where this has sprung up is Nigeria. We've talked about Nigeria in the past. It's kind of hard to distinguish when you're talking about Nigeria versus the country just to its north, Niger, Niger. How they differentiate their people, I'm not even going to try. But this is where it's coming from, Nigeria. Now, let me get to the article real quick. A place called Benue. Killer disease, a mystery. It's not Ebola, Lassa fever, or coronavirus. Nigerian government 20 hours ago, 7 February 2020. And I apologize, I'm trying to keep from coughing by having a cough drop in my mouth, so apologies for that. The Nigerian government has spoken on the strange killer disease in Benue State. Osagi Ehanire, Minister of Health, said the Nigeria Center for Disease Control was working hard to unravel the mystery. Ehanire said this at a ministerial briefing in Abuja on Friday. The minister stated that the illness has been laboratory tested and showed no symptoms of Ebola, Lassa fever, or coronavirus. The minister said that the NCDC had activated an emergency operations center to coordinate response activities in conjunction with Federal Medical Center in Makurdi to ascertain the nature of the illness. He advised Nigerians to contact NCDC immediately on its toll-free number. That's pretty irrelevant for us. Well, I'll read it just in case. Dash 0800 dash 970,000 dash 10, whatever that means to anyone. The disease symptoms include headache, internal heat, which I'm assuming here means fever, or maybe it just means internal heat. Maybe I should just leave it there. Diarrhea, vomiting, stomach ache, weakness of the body, and swollen stomach. Swollen stomach. Isn't that... Somebody got to help me out here. I wish I would have brought this up before I talked about this. Isn't that a symptom of rabies? I thought years ago that they had said that that's one of the symptoms, but I'll have to look. Don't quote me on that. The illness broke out in Oya Obi community on Wednesday, January 29, 2020, and has killed 15 people. The first victims, Happiness Ogbu, Ona Ogbedu, Wisdom Agwo, and Andi Edu, all died alike within 48 hours of contact. You see, now if there were a weapon really out there, this would be it. Currently, the number of persons affected has exceeded 100. Looks like that is the entire article. So I don't think this is going to be the last one. I think we might have been making a mistake thinking, what is going to be the one virus or the one disease that wipes out a fourth of the population, as it's referred to in the Bible? It might not be just one thing. Back in Europe, during the era of the plague, there was the pneumonic plague, there was the bubonic plague, there was syphilis, there was tuberculosis, there was all sorts of different things that were going on simultaneously. Malaria has killed more people than I can't even imagine. And that's just been an ongoing thing, but that might be the mistake we're making. Thinking it's going to be just the one thing. But a lot of the precautions for keeping yourself safe apply. And I hate to say it, I mean, I'm not totally anti-business. I used to run one. But I do believe that business operating in a community should have built into it somehow some type of responsibility to that community to do what it can do to help keep something from this, like something like this, pardon me, from spreading. Now, I know a lot of people think that the only thing business should ever concern itself with is profit. That's what capitalists believe. I'm of a different opinion on that. I don't think profit should be the only motive. Because the idea of having business and having the ability to operate businesses, and oh, by the way, even in Venezuela, evil, terrible, horrible, socialist Venezuela, they have free markets and they have businesses and they have all sorts of things that aren't controlled by the government. And that's been true for a lot of socialist countries. It's only basic provider things. Like nobody should be able to hold out medical care for profit. Imagine if we had that. Somebody walks in and says, I have the sniffles, walks into an emergency room or a doctor and says, I think I might be coming down with something. And they say, okay, well, fill out this credit app. And then they secretly make a motion to a nurse to go take a peekaboo at what kind of car the person drove up in so that they can make an ascertainment of your ability to pay and how much you could afford. Or someone that then else comes in with 2 kids that are deathly ill and need treatment right away, and the doctor goes, oh, well, this person is going to be, absolutely willing to pay anything to get their kids better. So we'll get a credit app from her and we'll make her get a second mortgage for her home to pay. I mean, that's what good capitalists would do. It's what they do with car dealers. And nobody bitches about that. And I know a lot of people say, well, car dealing is a luxury and, healthcare is not a luxury. Well, there are those out there who believe that we should go back to an era when profit was the only motive. And if you can't afford to pay what the doctor says at the time he thinks you ought to pay, I know a lot of people don't like it when I talk about stuff like this, but mark my words, it's going to come to a head. If something like this comes here and they can't figure it out and it starts running through our economy, you're going to really, really hope for the day when government puts its foot down and says, okay, everybody needs to have equal access to health care. And nobody should be able to, just like in a hurricane, we have laws against people jacking up prices on water and fuel and all these things when the need is greater. What about with a pandemic, when the need for health care is greater? Should that be something we allow business to determine? I had a video all set up for today when that new disease came out about what's going to happen here in the future. About the 3 countries that are going to be in the driver's seat. And do you know why they're going to be in the driver's seat? Mexico, Venezuela, and Brazil. Because they don't rely on income taxes to finance their government. They rely on the sale of oil. Brazil is virtually completely self-sufficient. Venezuela, before DC attacked them, was the wealthiest country in all of South America. And mark my words, Mexico's going to be as well. Because it's the reason I don't agree with the Democrats and the reason I don't agree with the Republicans. Because the Republicans and Democrats agree on something. This is the one thing I really wish I could get across to the people that think I'm some evil, terrible, horrible Democrat, Nancy Pelosi loving leftist. Absolutely not. Both sides agree that the money coming into the government should come from taxes. They just are debating on what the rate of the taxes should be and who should be paying them. I don't think that should be the case at all. I think the oil that comes out of the ground here shouldn't go to enrich private corporations. It should finance our government. It's ours. It works for Mexico. It works for Brazil. It works for Saudi Arabia. Just about every major oil-producing country in the world has some type of a state-operated oil venture. PDVSA is Venezuela. Petro Ecuador. Aramco is Saudi Arabia. Pemex is Mexico. Petrobras is Brazil. We're one of the only countries that allows this nonsense to go on. And one of these days, once our debt finally catches up with us, we're going to have to. We're going to be forced to nationalize our oil. Just because the tax revenue, look what's happening to China. Look at the huge hit they're taking financially. What if that would happen here? Where would the tax revenue come from? If businesses just start to shut because people aren't showing up because they're afraid to get sick. They're going to have to find some place to get that money. And this is going to be where they're going to go do it. They're not going to rely on just taxing the oil companies anymore. They're going to seize it and say this is a national security issue. And they're going to nationalize. I'm going to make that prediction right now. Next 10 to 15 years, the USA will nationalize its oil industry. It will be forced to, because it won't be able to compete with other nationalized oil industries. We won't be able to continue down this road soaking and bilking the American people. Like, share, subscribe.